story to tell you. Now, this one might come as a bit of a surprise. But about 11 years ago, I moved into the house. And at that time, I was cleaning in schools, working around my kids, as everybody would do. And it made me feel like I could be around for my children and still work. And I was very happy to do it, to be honest. Now, we moved in the February. So we did actually have this house and settle in the February. Now that was 11 years. Okay. And the one thing that we needed to do was change some of the furniture. So upstairs, we've got a very sort of like bespoke room. It's a bit cottagey because it's a 1930s house. So there's some rafters, there's some beams, and it's just a low ceiling in the corner. So we needed to purchase a wardrobe, which was a corner wardrobe. So we went and found this corner wardrobe over in Warwick, and it was in an old cottage. It was bespoke, so it's kind of like an oak bespoke corner wardrobe, solid wood. So we went and picked it up. Well, my husband and someone else went and picked it up. And when they got back, the other person had hurt the back. So I had to join forces with my husband to carry this bespoke unit up the stairs. And this house, when we first bought it, had still got the original plaster on it, which is horsehair plaster. So it's very crumbly. And if anything went into it, it's almost like spongy and it gets stuck. So here's what's coming next. So I'm at the bottom of the unit and Paul's at the top of the unit, and we're both trying to cart it up these stairs. Now the stairwell, as you can see from previous videos, is quite narrow due to the fact that it's a 1930s house and it was styled that way. So we started going up the stairs, and this corner unit was very heavy, very, very heavy wardrobe. It had got Queen Anne legs on it, and it's shaped like a triangle, like that, to go in the corner. So we got it on its side, and the corner pieces were really sharp. So the edges, the very corner pieces, and the one at the back was really sharp because they were pointed, because it was shaped to go in the corner of a room. So as Paul's trying to take it up the stairs, it gets wedged. His finger in between his two fingers, like that, right there in between, wedges the unit. And as I'm carrying it up the stairs and he's carrying it up, the rocking movement pushed his arm into the wall. And this unit was pinning his hand because it went straight into the wall and we couldn't get it out. So I'm at the bottom holding the weight. He's at the top trying to release his hand. And as he pulled back, the whole thing just come straight down and took my knee out completely. So there's me, Mrs. Get On With It person. I'm in agony. I'm at the bottom of the stairs and it's rugby tackled me and it's took my kneecap out. When I say it's took my kneecap out, the pain was immense. But I continued to go to work. So I went to work, and 1 week and a half in, I came back from working. My knee had blown out like nobody's business. It was huge, but I was still working. And I got back in my car and my leg wouldn't work. I couldn't get my foot or my leg out of the car. It literally had immobilised itself because the nerves had triggered with the brain. Do not use this. This is not safe. You can't stand on it. And my leg was in a 90-degree angle like so, and it was wedged. So I ended up having to go to the hospital, and I had an x-ray. So my husband came back from work. At that time, he was working over in offices. He came back from work, took me up to the hospital. I had an x-ray in the accident and emergency department, and they said that they couldn't quite see what the problem was. But obviously I'd injured it, and to go back to my GP. So I went back to my GP, and my GP said, you need to have physiotherapy on it, because once the swelling's gone down, because it was like massive, it was huge, it was just ridiculous. Like an elephant it was. It was like an elephant knee. And I couldn't straighten it. It was, like I say, it was in a 90-degree angle, so I couldn't even put my foot on the floor. And when I got out the car, when it first happened, after working on it, I literally had to carry my leg out. I got leggings on, and I had to carry my leg out of the car and hop with my leg, holding my leg up in my leggings to the gate to get in here and get on the sofa and wait for my husband. So when I went back, and the doctor said go to see the physiotherapist, they give me a course of physiotherapy. And that went on for 9 months, and my leg wouldn't straighten. And they said, oh, well, you know, you're not quite doing something properly. And I said, no, there's definitely no way that I can straighten this leg. It's locked in place. So I asked for a second opinion, and it took me ages to get a second opinion. So I'd already probably gone into well over a year of not being able to straighten my leg. And obviously my job was no longer, I couldn't even go to my job because I couldn't even walk. Then the doctor said I need to go and get cased to see if I am actually registered as disabled at the moment, because my leg is literally not usable. And he then said to me, when I went to see him, you need to possibly go and see somebody, a specialist. So before I could see the specialist, I had to wait for an MRI scan, because they wanted to send me for one of those. So they took me off for an MRI scan. And like I say, my knee was swelling all the time. It was constantly, and I was in agony. It was very painful. And not being able to straighten it as well. I was just immobilised on the one side. So I was housebound. I couldn't get about. My husband bought me one of those sit-on disability scooters, so I could try and get some kind of exercise swimming. So I used to go down there and go swimming. Then I had to wait to have my MRI, and then when I had the MRI, nothing was showing up other than the kneecap. There was half of the kneecap missing, and it was flat on the one side, and then the rest of it was at the front, and it was in a very awkward position. So they couldn't see what was going on, and they requested that I went to see this specialist. So I went. This was getting on for now probably 2 years, all in all. So I went to go and see this specialist, and during that time, the government, because I was going to the job centre to try and get a job because I didn't know what I could do. I had always worked because I could no longer work as a cleaner on my feet. And the woman at the job centre turned around and said, I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to try and get you registered disabled because you can't stand up. You can't move your leg. It's just, we can't help in any way until you've been seen by somebody. So she forwarded me on to this service to go and get registered as disabled. So then I was registered as disabled, and bearing in mind, I think it was £21 a week they gave me, that's it. So I've gone from working in a school to I was earning about £600 a month, something like that. And that was, you know, a long time ago. It was about 11 years ago, like I say. And going from that to £21 a week, and it was absolutely horrendous. I was going through the mill. So I had to learn the art of patience, which I did. And it gave me a great life lesson. Was just basically, you've got to live by your means, and you've got to put what's right first. If it's you, it's you. You know, you've got to look after yourself, and you've got to take everything into consideration, stand outside of yourself and see it for what it truly is. So I knew the only way forward was to get myself right again, back up walking. So when I went to go and have the MRI scan, as I say, they couldn't see anything. And I went back to my GP, and my GP said, you need to continue with the physiotherapy. So I continued with the physiotherapy. And at one point, I literally said to this physiotherapist, who was really abrupt, to be honest, this lady, I said, this isn't working. I need to go back. I need to see somebody, and I need to go and get this specialist appointment sorted. Now, the specialist appointment was sorted, and I went to go and see somebody at Warwick Hospital, and he was absolutely amazing. He looked at my leg and he said, I know exactly what's happened. He said, we need to get you in surgery as soon as possible. And I knew, because when I sat in that lady's physiotherapy office, I said, I need surgery. None of this is going to work. I need surgery. She was laughing at me almost, saying, well, you're not going to get surgery. You're not going to get surgery. Almost like I was being defiant against her. No, I wasn't. I was just trying to get my body right. And I knew what was going on. There was something quite wrong. So they ended up getting me in to see this surgeon. And he booked me in. Now, at the time, I was having weight loss. I was on a course for trying to lose weight, to have weight loss surgery. And so therefore, when I was going through week to week, my weight loss was going down significantly because I was on different diets. So I ended up having my sort of like my, your pre-tests before your operation. And these pre-tests were basically just checking to see everything to make sure that you're okay to have the surgery. And they weigh you. So they weighed me. And then they said, we need to get you in an emergency appointment. So they got me in I think it was 2 weeks later. And the day that I went in was the 24th of December. So I was in the day before Christmas. Obviously, they had a cancellation and they got me in. He said to me, the surgeon, you've got a condition which is only in 15% of the population, whereby a membrane that's around your knee and all your joints is called a plica or plica. And it basically is like a plastic bag that surrounds your joints when you're a fetus. And it is what holds your joints together while they're fusing. And then once they've fused and they've formed, it gets absorbed into your body naturally by yourself. But only 15% of the population retain. So what's happened is you've had this accident, your leg ballooned out, and then the plica or plica membrane has tethered your patella, your kneecap, into your joint, and you can't close your leg. And that's what's been happening with you. And I'm really, really sorry. And I'm sorry it's taken this long, but we need to get you in. And that's what happened. I had the surgery. Now, because they'd weighed me 2 weeks before, when I went in for the surgery, they don't weigh you. You have to request it. A lot of people don't realise you have to request to be weighed before you go in if you're going to have general anaesthetic. And obviously at that point, I didn't know. So I went in and I had my knee surgery, and something terrible happened. I died on the operating table. So I had the anaesthetist come in, put the dose for the weight that I was on the sheet, and then 45 minutes in, they had to emergency incubate. So they had to put the little scoop down my throat, put the tube in, get me breathing, sort me out, because literally my blood pressure went to 0, and that's what happened. So the reason is because he topped up the anaesthetic during the actual operation, and my weight had dropped significantly. This is the reason why I had that happen to me, which is absolutely terrible. But I did, obviously I'm here today. God bless, I'm here today. I'm so grateful for it. But the experience was horrific. I woke up. I was in the recovery position, and the nurse come and told me what had happened. I just couldn't believe that I was still there and alive. the surgeon then came out to me and explained everything and told me and took the photographs, showed me the photographs of the inside of my leg and said exactly what had happened and what it had to do. And he said, you needed that done. And then told me that I've got to go on about a 12-month course of a different centre I had to go to. It was a rehabilitation centre for getting back on your feet. So I had to go there and do physiotherapy. So I was on 2 sticks to start with. I'd still got my scooter, but I was on 2 sticks. I was in a wheelchair, basically. All that time prior, I was in a wheelchair. So I'd been in a wheelchair for a hell of a long time, not being able to walk. But after this operation, they got my leg straighter. They got my leg in a position where I could start trying to mobilise myself. And I got through it. And it took me probably about 12 months longer to get through it. And to get from 2 sticks to 1 stick to finally doing a bit on my feet. And I ended up, obviously at that point, it was no longer a disability situation. But yes, I was registered disabled. And I went through a lot. And I have to say, at that time, I was horrified that they don't support people who've been working their entire life. Now, prior to 2 years or 2.5 years prior to the accident, up until then, I've been working full time continuously in my life. And when I was working those lesser hours, which was part time, obviously your national insurance rate goes down. And that was the reason why I wasn't allowed incapacity benefit. So I was literally on £21 a week for being disabled. So I found that as a bit of an injustice. The situation with me getting better, I just wanted to keep on getting better. And I worked my way back into the land of the living, being able to move around, being able to be mobile. And my family were absolutely amazing. They had to put up with a lot with trying to, make sure that I was okay. And my mental awareness of life just sprung into action in a completely positive. I was always a positive person, but even more so, I was more grateful for the ability to walk, the ability to go out and work, and that really meant a lot. The fact that Christmas Day after that had occurred, I was out of hospital, and because it was Christmas Day, and I was downstairs, I was laid down on this sofa, and my husband had bought me, bless him, he bought me salmon because I was pescatarian at the time. And he was going to do me a salmon, and everyone else was going to have the normal turkey. I couldn't even lift my head off the pillow because the sucks, which is basically the immobilising injection that they put into you to stop any spasming when they're trying to put a pipe down your throat. Basically, it just relaxes all your muscles so you can't move. And that's what they used on me when they was trying to incubate me. So I felt like I'd been steamrolled. So the Christmas Day, I felt absolutely horrendous. But as I say, I'm here, I'm doing this, and I'm back up and about, and I'm a busy lady. So I'm very blessed, and that's all I can say. When you're blessed, you know it, and I am. So even with all that going on, I am blessed, okay? Now, because I am a bit of a fighter when it comes to justice, I decided whilst I was in the wheelchair that I was disgusted in the fact that people like myself were left to the wayside, and that I was fighting for everybody's cause. So I went up and I saw, again, I'm going to mention his name, this Member of Parliament, Jeremy Wright. And that's how I met him, because I went up to one of his drop-ins and actually put the case against why people like myself was not entitled to incapacity benefit when you were in a sticky situation like that, which basically is not your fault, okay? And that was based on the fact that the previous 2.5 years before that, I'd only been on a part-time wage, not paying full national insurance. And so they have you over a barrel, because if you was paying full national insurance, they'd be paying you incapacity benefit. But prior to that, like I say, all those years before, I'd done my bit. I had worked, I had contributed national insurance higher rate, and I just thought it was disgusting, because there's a lot of people out there that can happen to. So when I went into his offices and had to chat to him on one of his surgery days, which is basically what they are, I put my case to him. I got all my legislation, which were mail-merged documents off the government, which were completely incorrect. And I knew my rights, and I thought, I know everybody else's rights. And I went and did a lot of research, covering bases, talking to people who were disabled, trying to find out exactly what had happened to them, putting their cases on paper, and putting it all together and handing it in, and talking to him about it. And I said, why is it that people like me are left to the wayside when all they need is a bit of help whilst they're trying to get back up and running? And he looked at me in the face and he said to me, I understand exactly what you're saying. And I said to him, well, you look at this face, you look at my eyes, and you look at the sincerity in my person, and my genuine ask for this situation to be changed. I said, and I'd like you to get to, this was on the Friday, I said, I'd like you to get to Monday morning. I said, after you've done your groundwork and you've spoken to the relevant people in Parliament, I said, I want a phone call off you at 8:30 in the morning on Monday to tell me that that is exactly what you've done, and I want to hear it from yourself. And I said, please don't forget. I said, tonight, the last thing you do tonight is you go to sleep and you think about people like me, and you see my face and you see it as a talisman, as some understanding of compassion for people, okay? And then answer me. Make your answers to me, because I want to hear what you've got to say. And lo and behold, the chap came up. He came trumps with it. He contacted me at 8:30 off his phone in his office, and he told me exactly what he'd done. So he had put forward lots of information. He'd spoken to, at the time, Ian Duncan Smith. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware, but this was 2016. That was a year after the situation had occurred, more or less. And it was in the February of 2016 is when I actually had this conversation with him. And I remember him saying to me on the phone that he'd spoken to Ian Duncan Smith, and that Ian had got a lot to say about, problems within the disability situation within the government at that time. And he looked at me and he said, this was Jeremy, right? He looked at me and he said, he's going to send you a letter explaining everything. I'm going to get in touch with the people who work for the Department of Work and Pensions and get them to send you a letter and their apologies to how you've been treated. The conversations and the wording in some of the letters were completely incorrect. People will get trained, and it is only right, because this is happening everywhere. And I want this to be, in the narrative of things, I want this to be positive moving forward and something good come from it. And then he said to me, you'll be receiving this letter from Ian Duncan Smith, and there's going to be a few changes. And he regrets not being able to be the person to tell you that he can help. Now, a month later, in March, he resigned from the government. Ian Duncan Smith resigned from the government based on this very thing that I'm talking about. It was cuts with disability, allowances of various different degrees. And he was absolutely disgusted with it. As a person, he decided to resign, because he said that it's a terrible situation to have to cut these benefits when they genuinely, people really do need them. And I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about a hell of a lot of people. Because I went onto forums and I found so many different degrees of cases where it definitely could have been resolved and they should have been supported. So, you know, there are people out there that genuinely need that help. And Ian Duncan Smith didn't like it, so he resigned. And that was only about 3 weeks after, if that. And I've got the letter here that Ian sent me from the House of Commons. Now, I won't read it to you because there's no need to. But I can definitely tell you that I had a fantastic experience with Jeremy. He really helped, and there was a real sentiment of absolute equality and justice in his tone. And also the same can be said from Ian, because his letter is lengthy, very, very lengthy. I can't show you the letter, but it is extremely lengthy. And it was sent to me on the 7th of February. That's when it was sent, 2016. And he's basically been given all the information by Jeremy, and he said that raising the issue of my employment and support allowance claim. He's going to raise the issue with a particular individual, which I won't name. And basically, you know, the concerns about various different ways people are being trained to enable the correct information, because I had a breach. Come through to me, a GDPR issue. So all of that was all put in writing. It was me that brought the case forward to tell them about how I felt about everything. And he wanted to just make sure that I knew the facts. And obviously, this was probably the last few weeks of him being the head of disability. It's just amazing to think that there are people out there that do care. And it is a difficult situation, you know, trying to overrule rules and red tape. But if you go about things the right way, you'll get your answers. And that's exactly what happened. But lastly, I will say, it was something that I was kind of like not shocked about when he decided to resign, because he was really disgusted with what was going on with the disability allowances, and basically people were not being treated fairly by the government. So he didn't like it, and he stood by it, because in this letter he's written it extremely well. There's 2 long pages of it, A4. But it was basically from the Right Honourable Ian Duncan Smith MP, Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, and he signed it in person. I was just happy to know that this man stood by his word, and so did Jeremy. Now, the thing is, this is another reason why when injustices occur, you've got to fight for it, but you've got to do it the right way. Do it the right way with power, because the only power that you've got is truth. If you think that you've got power by, you know, going in all burly, then it doesn't work. You just have to be factual and have the truth spoken. Whatever comes off your lips needs to be real. It needs to be factual. So yeah, I've had responses and I've had help with finding things out and getting to the bottom of things. And so therefore, moving forward with this conversation I'm having with you, this situation with that Mini, I know it sounds like bizarre compared to what I've just mentioned, but with us lost £7,000 initially right now with that car through no fault of our own, there needs to be a resolution. So when we was informed to go back to Jeremy Wright again to speak to him, I came home last night and my husband had obviously had that information given to him by Citizens Advice. And now they told him to go and move forward and contact. So he did. And then today I decided to give the office, Jeremy's office, a ring Now, it's been 11 years, but the guy, I do know him. I have seen him out and about in Kenilworth. And he's not a friend. No, he's not a friend. He's my MP. So, but when I phoned them up today, I explained that he does know me because he offered me a job because of the consistency that I'd had with all of this to do with the disability. He said, I'd love you to come and work for me. Now, at the time, it wasn't something I could have done because I was literally going through health problems with my leg and trying to get back on track. And that was the most important part of me getting well again. But he did. He said, with your integrity and your, honesty and the way you go about things, I'd like to know that I'd got somebody of that ebb and flow within, my workforce. But I did phone them today and I did say he knows who I am because he offered me a job and it's me who owns the car. And I said that to her and I said, I'm not saying it for any reason other than it's a fact and I know he'll know who I am. And 2 hours later, we've got contact from them because Jeremy is sending a letter to Trading Standards on my behalf. Now, that's what you call a good job. So we'll see what comes of it from this letter that Jeremy's sending to Trading Standards because he's heard all the facts and he's chosen to do the right thing and support us because he knows that we obviously, have had another injustice occur. Oh, it's thunder and storm, flashes of lightning. But I want to say good on him for doing the right thing because that's what you want. You want people to do that, whether they're just someone who passes you by on the street or somebody like myself or an MP in Parliament or even somebody who you buy something from. They need to honour the consumer agreements. That's it. So on that note, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. I'm going to wish you all an absolutely amazing day. I've shared you a long story, but it's true. All right? And you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Just keep strong because you're all powerful in your own right as humans. Always be kind. Always be truthful. And never tell a lie. If you do tell a lie, it'll come back on you. All right? Take care. See you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.